Southeast Missouri pick first, the defending champions. Coach, just some thoughts about going into this upcoming 2022 season.
I mean, in terms of being picked first, I mean, obviously that's usually just a reflection of where you guys finished the year before, and so that's fairly standard. Kind of the message to our guys was, that's great, but last year's last year, and 2022 is a new year, and preseason rankings, they're not worth a whole lot. In about 10 days, those things all go away. So we just have been trying to be focused on getting better every day and trying to take the lessons we learned in the championship run last year and use them to continue the growth of our program moving forward.
Is it sort of, maybe before it was easier to kind of know who people had back now, transfer portal and some different things. It's really hard to know, right? Who's going to be good going into the season until you get some weekends under your belt.
100%, Skirka just finished up. They got a ton of transfers in from the summer, and they got some guys left and some guys in, and guys we don't have a track record with. So in terms of just having a feel for who guys have, right now, there's probably more uncertainty at the beginning of the year, but at the same time, by the time conference starts, we're going to know who's pitching when and who's good. And, it's just a little bit people talk about it, right? Like who'd they get, who transferred in, who'd they lose, So, big win for us, Tyler Wilbur, our senior shortstop's back. And, I think for us, we didn't lose anybody that was a prominent role, and were able to add not a lot of pieces, but hopefully added a good piece. So the portal didn't really ding us too badly this year.
Before I go to these people who have questions, I wanted to ask you one more, because I'm sure they're going to ask you a lot about this year too. But just how do you sum up last year's experience and you winning the tournament, getting to participate in the NCAA tournament? What was that like for you and your program?
Really it was a 2-year process, because there was no championship won in 2020. And I thought we had a really good team. We only played one conference weekend, but we were going to have the best lineup. We had, Justin Durden was on pace to hit 30 home runs. I mean, he was leading the league in almost every single offensive categories. Through 4 weeks, he had 9 homers and 9 stolen bases and 5 outfield assists, right? That's probably the most amazing stat of what Durden was doing. And I thought we were going to have a chance to win the league in 2020. The question mark for us in 2020 was our bullpen. I wasn't in love with the depth of our bullpen, and obviously there was a lot of real tragedies due to COVID, and certainly a lot of small ones too. And for us, a small one was not able to finish that season with what I thought was a really good team and a great lineup. Take Justin Durden. Justin Durden gets a chance to sign, and our lineup changes. And last year was a different team. Durden's dominance, and then that turned into Dylan Dodd's dominance, and Dylan Dodd became the best pitcher in the league, and we won with a different formula. We were great on Fridays with an elite starting pitcher, and then we just played execution style baseball. Maybe now, we bunted more than I would probably prefer to, but that's what, it's kind of, you look up and it's like, hey, what do we have to do to win this game? And we just played fundamental situational baseball and ended up scoring one more run more times than we didn't. And that may not be the way you draw it up, but that's a fun team to coach, because you have to have a lot of guys buying in and a lot of guys just doing their part. And that for me was kind of the big, memory of that year. Obviously, winning the championship and the tournament and things like that are exciting. But the takeaway besides those games was how much those guys just played for each other. And I don't think you win a championship, they don't do it. But I told the story to our team when we had our ring ceremony is, Wade Stouse, our starting catcher last year, he signed with the St. Louis Cardinals and isn't back. So you think, okay, I mean, he signed a pro contract. What a great year. Wade Stouse came to me halfway through the year and told me that his dream of professional baseball was died. He was actually in his 3rd sophomore year due to COVID and redshirting due to injury. So he could have been like a 7th-year senior. And he's like, Coach, I'm going to play one more year because I want to be around this team. I want to help my brother. His younger brother, Ty Stouse, plays. But he's like, I've got a job. I'm going to get married. My dream of pro ball is done. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to catch Dylan Dodd as best I possibly can, because I think Dylan's going to make it. I think he's going to be a big leaguer, and I'm devoting my play to him. I'm going to be the best receiver and blocker for Dylan. And then you look up with that kind of attitude, Wade Stouse was the most valuable player in the OVC tournament and gets to sign a pro contract. And that was my takeaway from that year. Is we had a lot of guys, not just Wade, but we had a lot of guys who put personal agendas aside to win. Tyler Wilbur, who was the preseason player of the year in the OVC this year, he was voted that. He really didn't have a great tournament. I've only put one bunt on for Tyler in his 3 years here, and he was going so poorly, we safety squeezed him in game 1 of the OVC tournament. And you have a guy that is SEMO's all-time leading Division I hitter. He's been an All-American before. You know, he's the preseason player of the year. He gets asked to get a safety squeeze down in the OVC tournament, and he did it. He executed, and we won that game. And so, like, those types of stories, obviously there's a lot of small ones that go along with it, but those types of things are the things I took away from last year's team, and try to tell that story as much as possible to our group, because sometimes success can turn the me's into we's, right? You know, when everybody's hungry and striving, and you know, it's easy to pull on the same rope. Sometimes when you've achieved it and you've won a championship, sometimes the credit becomes more important. And so we've really tried hard to preach that message and to make sure we kind of have that same mindset we had a year ago.
We're going to go. Van Stokes has a question, and then Tom, I'm going to get to your questions after that. So Van, if you want to go first, go ahead.
Coach, Van Stokes from Austin Peay Governor Sports Network. I mentioned this to you last year, but now after a season, you had a director of analytics on your staff last year.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you leaned heavily on that. Talk about your coaching style. Do you coach by feel, or do you coach by the analytical numbers?
I'm going to say I'm more old school in nature, and I'm going to coach by my gut, although I do try to use as much information as I possibly can prior to pitch 1 being thrown. So if you looked at our lineup last year, Tyler Wilbur, you know, led the league in hitting at whatever, you know, based on, there's different ways of looking at it. If you had 2.5 at bats per game, which is standard, Tyler Wilbur leads the league in hitting. We hit him in the 2-hole, and we hit Danny Wright in the 3-hole. And Danny Wright, who was a freshman All-American 5 years ago, was going through a back injury, and he hit probably 240 last year. But we had kind of found a niche for how we were going to make it work. And, you know, it's like, how is your 2-hole hitter hitting 400 and your 3-hole hitter hitting 240? And it's like, we kind of built a plan around being able to lengthen the lineup and get guys into situations to drive runs in. And that was part of it. So we certainly looked at every bit of data that we could look at and examined every piece of data that we could examine. But once first pitch is thrown, I don't have a table or a chart. I'm certainly not trying to promote that baseball gets what basketball has, and I can have an iPad on the bench. But we do try to take advantage of every piece of information that's available to us, so we can prepare ourselves in the best possible fashion. That's kind of how I try to use that stuff and look at it. I want to be the most prepared coach on the field. Like, and I'm not saying I am. We've got great coaches in the OVC, but that's something that, like, I would strive to be. Like, I am prepared for matchups and situations. And then if you're prepared, then hopefully you can trust your gut. You can trust your eyes, is what I tell our especially because, you know, in the OVC, we're always going to have young coaches. One thing I always tell especially our pitching coaches, as they're calling pitches, you have to trust your eyes. Now, you're going to do the homework. You're going to do the scouting reports. You're going to analyze all those numbers. But once the game starts, you have to trust your eyes, and you have to believe what you see. And that's kind of how I would manage it.
Thank you, Coach.
Go ahead. And since we don't have you have plenty of time here, since we don't have a coach after Andy, you can ask as many questions as you need. Go ahead.
I work 5 minutes from his office. I can harass him all spring long. So,
Good
Coach, good to see you.
Good to have you back.
Yeah. And hey, talk a little bit about Tyler and Javon. They got preseason all-league honors going into the season. Just talk a little bit about your expectations on those 2 players to start with.
Well, Tyler had a great year last year, hit 390 with 6, maybe. I can't remember numbers off the top of my head. Has been the best hitter in our lineup since he's been here, outside of the short season with Durden and COVID. And yet I think Javon is his equal in terms of talent. Tyler has a unique ability. He's got a great mental feel for hitting. He's as advanced as a college hitter as I've ever coached, and I've coached about 30 kids I've either recruited or coached or gone on to play in the big leagues. So I've been blessed to be around, you know, Alex Gordon has a 15-year big league. I've been around some good players. His mental approach to hitting is superior to anybody else I've been around. Like, he is savvy, he is smart. He's unique in that way. Javon is his equal physically. I keep telling Javon, and I've told Javon this since August. I said, I want you to be the player of the year in the conference. And he looks at me, he's like, well, what about our shortstop? And I was like, yeah, but I want you to do it. Like, I keep trying. I think Javon could be that good. Javon is a unique combination of speed and strength. He's a great base runner. He's strong. He's cocky. he is as fierce a competitor as we've got. So in the first championship game, we had the game against Murray in game 2 in the tournament. We were getting beat in the 7th, and Javon was mad. He wasn't like encouraging his teammates. He was mad at them because he thought we were a little bit passive in that game. He hits a 3-run home run in the 7th to basically give us the win. We come out the next day in the first championship game against Murray, and they beat us. And he's mad again. Like, he's lighting guys up. Like, he's like, I don't want to have to play tomorrow. I don't want to win this thing on Sunday. And then, we did win on Sunday, but like, he is more of an emotional, fiery, competitive guy. And Tyler is this veteran, savvy, intellectual, notices everything. Like, he'll hit a double in the gap, and I'll be like, man, that was a great swing. It's like, yeah, he tipped his changeup, coach. I knew it was coming. It was easy, like stuff like that. They're different humans, but obviously Tyler, with his age and him being around longer, he deserves to be the preseason player of the year. But I keep telling Javon, I said, I think you're going to do it. You're going to do it. So
Right.
high expectations and hopes for both of them.
All right. Second base, by rule, I think you have to field 9 players. And so you got to have a second baseman out there. And Connor's gone. I hate to tell you that. Connor's gone. But so what are you going to do at second?
We've got probably 2 different guys and possibly 3. So if you look at if Tyler Wilbur's the shortstop, I'm going to play every day, obviously. Then you've got 2 other spots on the left side of the dirt. And I feel like we have 3 young men that can do a good job for us. One of them played every day at third base for us last year. Peyton Leeper didn't have a great offensive season, but is a very good defender. He's tough. He's gritty. He's grimy. We like his presence in the lineup. He gives us some needed attitude and some toughness. He played every day last year. We had our DH down the stretch last year, Danny Sperling. Danny Sperling played every day, hit a big home run in the championship game in the tournament. Danny Sperling didn't play a lot of defense last year because his defense was behind his offense, but he's gotten better. He's really worked hard. I've kind of tasked him with, man, I don't want to have to DH you. You need to put in the work where you can get on the field. His defense has significantly improved. So now he is an option there at second and third. And then we have a new guy named Ben Palmer. Ben won the Junior College Gold Glove Award winner at shortstop. He was the Junior College Gold Glove winner at shortstop, and he can play them all. Like he might be our best shortstop, third baseman, and second baseman. He is really gifted with the glove, and has some surprising pop. Like, it's a pretty quick, loose barrel. He's going to hit some doubles. And so I would say to start the season, I would look to rotate those 3 guys amongst those 2 spots. And so give them all opportunities. Ben Palmer's a right-hand hitter. Danny Sperling's a left-hand hitter, and Leeper's a switch hitter. And so I've got some flexibility with matchups and who gets to play when, but I would look for all 3 of those guys to get at bats in that second base and third base position.
Okay. Andrew Keck's a guy that's athletic enough to play multiple positions. Are you going to use him at catcher or Wyatt Grant? How are you going to work the catching situation?
Andrew's our starter. I've always felt that Andrew was a starting catcher. He was just so athletic, it allowed us to play him other places. Andrew Keck was our starter. His freshman year was Wade Stouse's first sophomore year, and Wade Stouse missed the year due to a concussion he couldn't get through the concussion protocols and had to redshirt. Andrew Keck caught every day that year and was fine. And so I felt blessed for the last 2 years. I always said I've got 1A and 1B. 1B just happens to be a great athlete. Andrew Keck led our team in stolen bases last year, so he's really athletic. He can go to the outfield, and it allowed us for flexibility in the offense. Andrew Keck can go back behind the plate and be our everyday starter this year. And then behind him, we have Ty Stouse, the younger brother of Wade Stouse, who was our starter last year, who's a left-handed hitter. And then we have Wyatt Grant, who's a right-hand hitter. So we've got 2 options behind Andrew, but Andrew will be our primary catcher this year.
You lose Dylan on the mound, which obviously is huge, but you have a lot of guys that got innings in OVC play last year. And obviously Kyle was spectacular late and all that sort of thing. But what are you thinking in terms of your pitching? You're going to throw a ton of guys at the wall and see who sticks? Is that how you're going to do that?
I think at the start of the year, maybe, but we've got a pretty good idea now. Bryce Grocius, if you look at his overall numbers, it would have been an average to good year for him last year. If you looked at his conference numbers, I think he pitched at a 2 ERA with maybe 3 walks and 27 strikeouts. And those aren't exact, but it's somewhere along there for his he was fantastic for us down the stretch in conference games. He was good. And we don't have TrackMan at SEMO, but Belmont did. And we played at Belmont, and we had due to COVID, they wouldn't let us shower in their building on line. So we had to go to the basketball arena. So I got to walk around the Palace and see how nice that is. Their director of ops guy comes and gets me ahead of the bus. And he's like, "Hey man, you do realize how good Grotius is?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's good. We won." So I was like, happy. "Yeah, he's really good." He's like, "Dude, he has 3 above average big league pitches." And I was like, I know his breaking ball spin's good, but like, I wasn't like, but evidently he's got three pitches that are above average. Bryce Grotius is a young man that was never the issue with him. It was always just consistency and being able to weather the inevitable adversity, right? You jam a guy and the bloop falls in and he gets frustrated or gets too excited and walks the next guy and starts an inning. He's always been, it's like you love the emotional competitor guys, the fist pump guys.
Yeah.
But you always need those guys to ring those emotions in. And he's a young man that's been a slower process for him maybe than for others. But he really has been fantastic. Our mission to him was not just relying on his great stuff, but he needed to get guys out in 3 pitches or less this fall, because he would use so many pitches because he always wasn't as fine. That's great. You can be a reliever like that, but it's hard to be a starter like that because I don't need you at 100 pitches through 5, and now I've got to pitch 4 innings out of the bullpen on Friday. He's thrown his fastball at a 71% strike percentage this fall and spring and really cleaned some of those things up that, yes, he was having success, but if you're going to be a starter, it needs to be, I need you to give me 7 so my bullpen's not exposed so we can win the series. So things like that. So Bryce has been fantastic. I'm assuming, we've got 1 more weekend of scrimmages to go this weekend, but I'm assuming he'll be leading the charge on Friday down at Dallas Baptist for us. And then you've got Noah Nisnick. Noah Nisnick is a young man that for 2.5 years was our best pitcher probably on our team. His true freshman year, he got the 4th best ERA amongst starting pitchers in the OVC, had a great freshman year, was off to a great start in COVID, and then got off to a great start last year in his 3rd year. Had a great start at Arkansas. I think we were in the lead in the 5th inning. He dominated Illinois State in start 3. He really struggled down the stretch last year. He lost his command for the first time in his life. He lost his command. He struggled. I think he lost his confidence. And for a young man who's always been good, I don't think he handled not being good very well. And I think he got in his head and it got away from him. And he has been back to being himself much better. He's been our Saturday starter for the last 3 years. He's going to begin the year probably in the 2 hole. And then last year, we kind of had a 2-headed monster at closer. We had Austin Williams and we had Kyle Miller. Austin Williams, as a senior, really wanted a chance to move in the rotation. We kind of used that as a carrot for him to chase, and he had a fantastic fall, has pitched very well. And at least early on, he will be probably the Sunday starter for weekend 1. And so I feel, blessed that we have 3 guys that have all thrown significant innings opening weekend, right? Like we're not having to put somebody new out there in terms of rotation. And then we still have guys in the bullpen. You've got Kyle Miller was a true freshman walk-on last year. He had a save in our first game of the season in which he struck out the side. And then he bookended the first game of the season with a 9-inning complete game in the OVC tournament. That's a pretty fantastic freshman year for a true freshman to walk on. So he's obviously got experience in multiple roles. He's going to begin the year as our closer. We've got Blake Cisneros, who has a chance to be OVC's career appearances leader if things keep going the way they've gone for him. We've got a redshirt freshman named Anthony Klein, who might have more attitude than any pitcher in the OVC, even though the stuff's pedestrian. He does it on cockiness and attitude and swagger. I can't wait to get him on the mound and watch him go compete. He thinks he throws 102, not 86, but just a super competitive, like teammates. When he comes in the game, our team gets excited because they love playing behind him. And then we have a couple transfers that I'm excited about that can be in that role as well. Jason Rackers at one point was the number 2 junior college prospect in the country, transferred in from
Tennessee, right?
Yep. He's big, strong right-hander, been up to 96. He's had consistency issues ever since he had Tommy John. He turned down, huge bonus out of Jeff Cota, go pitch in the SEC, ended up having Tommy John. And then the stuff has been inconsistent. It hasn't been bad. It's just been up and down ever since he had surgery. So we're hoping that we can get him into a routine and get him to be a little more consistent and to get his potential realized. We've got a young man named Tommy Went out of South Suburban Junior College in Chicago. He's a big 6'4" kid, 90 to 93 with a really good slider. He's going to factor into that bullpen. Hunter Rawls is a young man that is a returner that started some games for us in conference for us last year, threw some important innings out of the bullpen. He's a big, strong, hard throwing right-handers. We've got kind of a pack of, kind of hard throwers, standard bullpen type guys sitting there behind Kyle Miller in the bullpen. So I feel good about the age and experience of those guys.
Well, Coach,
Okay.
we're going to have to cut it off there. We appreciate
All right.
your participation this morning,
Thanks,
and
Coach.
best of luck to you all as you start the season.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right.